The Federal Trade Commission is warning Apple that its news product could be violating federal law. In a letter from FTC Chairman Andrew Ferguson, the organization says that Apple is allegedly suppressing conservative voices while elevating left-wing news outlets. He then cites his source, a conservative nonprofit called the Media Research Center. The tech giant's stock had its worst day since April of last year on Thursday, after this FTC warning and a reported product delay. Its stock dropped 5%, wiping out the giant's entire gains for the year. Let's bring in Angelo Carusone. He is the president of Media Matters for America. Angelo, it's good to have you back on the show. So I want to just get right into the reason behind this FTC warning and also what we know about this organization that conducted this study. Are they a reputable group?
No, they're not reputable. They were started in the 80s, and they're basically, they're designed to pretend that everything in the news media, including real journalism, is left wing. They're a political operation, and that's what they are, plain and simple. They're not considered credible. Their studies don't have I think the kinds of intense methodologies that give them wide scale uplift. I mean, look, obviously they're part of the right-wing firmament, but I think they're much more like a political operation than they are, say, like a serious player. And that's really the story here. It illustrates the synergy between sort of this right-wing political infrastructure on the outside and then its interconnectedness with government to sort of take those reports or studies, give them a validation or to run with them so that they can then execute some kind of a change. They use the government as a tool to change things.
Angelo, I'm not sure if you're an attorney or have some legal background here, but could you help us understand what the alleged violation of law would even be? Like, why can't Apple News put out whatever content or platform, whatever content it wants to platform, whether it's liberal or conservative or something completely different? Like, I don't even understand why the FTC is able to tell Apple News what kind of content it can publish.
I mean, that's a good question, right? I mean, I think that's sort of the letter itself tips its hand a little bit, right? Because it doesn't really get into any specifics. What it basically says is, watch out, and we're going to start digging. And part of it is a shot across the bow. I mean, the muscle memory of the right wing in this administration broadly is to work the refs, to threaten them with things. The easy way or the hard way. And so you get out there and you say, you see this? We're going to start to investigate. You better not be tipping the scales in favor of left-wing content. We're going to dig in on this. And there's good reason for why they should care what happens on Apple News, right? It's not just something on the outside independent. It has 125 million active users. It's actually an important part of people's news diet. It helps shape their lens. And when you put this action in the context of the administration's broader actions, they're trying to control the narrative or influence the narrative or shape it. And this is just a small part of that. But no, they don't really have much here. So they do an investigation or they threaten to do an investigation. They hope Apple moves first. Maybe they'll even pursue a deep investigation. That's been a tool that the FTC has been continuing to execute. We're on the receiving end of one as Media Matters so far this year. And it's a tool in their toolkit. So no, it's not really clear. And that's it. There's this is a shot across the bow, but it should be taken seriously because this is not like a one-off thing where they're just checking off a box. They are tipping their hand. They're showing that they're about to do something, and they're going to pressure Apple to tip its hands and shift what's happening on Apple News. That's what they're saying here.
So the FTC chair claims this isn't about being speech police, but that's exactly what it is. And so with the focus on this and the focus on policing speech, what critical missions are being overlooked?
I mean, I think your question is right because there's a lot of stuff that they've done already that is overlooked. So for instance, that is damaging. So earlier in last year, two of the largest media buyers in the country merged. In order to merge, they have to get FTC approval. The FTC said, if you want to merge, here's our deal. No more advertiser boycotts. No more pulling your ads for political or ideological reasons. If you think something is too extreme, you can't be helping your clients move their ads off that content. Now, who do you think they're talking about? They're talking about what was happening in the past, which is advertisers saying, hey, some of that extreme right-wing content, we don't want to be a part of it. So we're going to pull our ads off of it. They made a condition of a merger the case that they could not pull their ads off of that. So just to show you, they're not really thinking about the FTC as sort of keeping, open markets or free markets operating, or thinking about what's going to help an open marketplace to do what the FTC should be doing. They're actually seeing it as an instrument and a tool of executing Trump's agenda. And in this case, it is seizing or influencing as much narrative control as they possibly can. And that ranges from everything, like I said, with these advertisers, to going after opponents or potential critics, to using the FTC as a tool to get businesses and culture in line, because that's the ultimate takeaway here. It's not about getting companies just to act because they want them to do that. What is so deeply ingrained in the sort of the Trump administration is a recognition that politics is downstream from culture. And as long as if you can shape these businesses, not only can you take them away as an obstacle to implementing or consolidating power, but you can actually shape culture and as a consequence influence politics downstream.
Speaking of culture,
the short answer is nothing. They're not doing their job.
Well, speaking of culture, Angelo, we know that Republican lawmakers are actually pressuring the FCC to investigate Bad Bunny now, days after his halftime show performance. You chuckle, but break down for us what they're trying to do here.
Yeah, I mean, they're arguing that this was a political statement, that it should warrant an investigation. And I should just note that, they've made rule changes at the FTC. And sometimes this stuff is so administrative and so boring. It feels so far away. But, it's worth remembering that when Trump came into office this time, it was the second shot. This wasn't just a performance. They had a plan. They knew where all the levers were that would allow them to implement a bunch of changes. So, for instance, the first thing they did at the beginning of this year was change certain programs to say these programs are no longer allowed or accepted from our equal time rule. And then a month later, just last week, they issued an investigation against The View for violating a rule that they just changed. And that's the technicalities that they're implementing here. So what are they doing here? It's not clear yet, just like the FTC. But what you're seeing is this political pressure on the outside saying to the FCC, figure something out. We think there was a violation here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the funniest piece of all of this, maybe funny is the right word, but I thought it was kind of funny, was when I saw Representative Mark Alford from Missouri. He said on I forget what channel it was, some right-wing network, not Fox, that he didn't speak Spanish and he didn't actually watch most of the Bad Bunny halftime show, but he was pretty sure whatever went on was worse than the Janet Jackson, wardrobe malfunction. So that's about the level of homework that they're doing here.
You got it. That's right. They don't have an answer. They're hoping the FCC figures it out. And it's as much
Google
about
Translate
getting the FCC
is free
here.
for anyone at home.
It's free. Yeah. So this is it. This is their new reality, and I think that we're going to hear a lot more about the FTC and the FCC in the next year or so, because they are really sharp blades in policing the speech of perceived and actual critics of Trump.
Angelo, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.